You're watching KCRA 3 Reports in high definition, where the news comes first.
And anytime there is a crisis like this, be it a hurricane, an earthquake, or a fire, it is always a good reminder about how you need to be prepared for a disaster. So joining us this morning from ReadyNation.com is Brian Nichols, and your message this morning is that this is not something that has to be expensive.
Exactly. It can very much be easy and affordable for every family to prepare for disasters.
So basically, what is it I need to know to be prepared for disaster? Because I know you grew up in a hurricane area.
I grew up in Florida. My family still lives there.
We don't have hurricanes here.
Right.
We don't get a 3-day notice of, okay, we've got a hurricane bearing down. If something happens here, it's typically a flood, an earthquake, or a wildfire, and those are things that happen in an instant.
Exactly. That's even more of a reason to be prepared.
So what can we do to be prepared?
Sure. There's several steps you can take. Some of the more important steps is to create a family emergency plan, because if something happens real quickly, you may not be together with your family. So you want to have a plan on how you're going to react and how you're going to communicate.
So on that note,
Yes.
what kind of advice can you give to a family? Because we've done stories about, well, how would Sacramento respond? And oftentimes it comes down to, well, we got to know what the disaster is first, because the meeting points or the evacuation points could be different. They could be Arco Arena, or they could be Mather Airfield. You know, they could be different areas. What can you tell a family if they're trying to come up with a meeting point, not knowing what the disaster might be?
Yeah, you can come up with several scenarios, and I actually have a program on ReadyNation.com that will walk you through on coming up with the different scenarios in case certain things happen. Then there's always how you communicate when a disaster happens. So even the best laid plans maybe can't happen. So you have a plan on how you're going to communicate. A lot of times within a disaster area, communications are down, and it's hard to communicate within, but you can have an out-of-state contact that you call, and you can update, and then you can provide your status and how you're going to react next.
And as far as what you can have on hand,
Yes.
what should you have immediately handy? I know everyone says keep important documents and whatnot, but in an emergency, you're not going to be all that worried about paperwork.
Right, and we actually have a program on ReadyNation that you can load all that stuff up on ReadyNation.com, and then you can pull it down whenever you get the chance to have access to the internet. So you can do that in advance, because you may not be at home to grab those important documents either. So you can store it online and then download it and print it anytime you'd like to.
So you can really just put it online. That way you don't have to have it in a ready-go bag or anything like that.
Exactly. But you should also have a kit with you, like an emergency kit that the folks talk about, that has water, food, weather radio in it, and other items that you can grab and go whenever you need to evacuate, if you need to evacuate.
And again, I guess the big important point to stress here in the Sacramento area is that these are disasters where we likely aren't going to get the 2 or 3 days notice or the media build up to you should evacuate. These are things that are going to happen in an instant.
Exactly. And again, if you go to ReadyNation.com, we've got an easy set of tools that we developed that will lead you through how to prepare your family so you can survive and recover from disasters. And it doesn't take that much time, and it's a lot easier and affordable than